Happy Thursday. I hope that you're having a great week. For the Morgans, we're having a little bit of a challenging week. We came home from church on Sunday and we had water in the garage. Well, we thought it was from the water softener, but on Monday, it had already spread to our laundry room, to our kitchen, to our living room, to our office. And we could hear water running, but we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I was ready to cut holes into the wall. I was ready to dig into the slab, but my wife said, no, we have to call a plumber. I don't want my house to be any more of a mess than what it already is. The plumber comes out, and he looks and investigates, and he says, yeah, I think that your leak's probably right here in this wall. And he begins to cut a hole in there. And so, sure enough, he turns the water back on, and water begins to squirt out like crazy. It was a small hole, but it created a huge mess. And then he said something interesting. He said, yeah, this leak started off probably as a small little drip. It just began to drip and drip, and then it began to get larger and larger. He said, look at all this buildup that's around it. See how it's green? This made me kind of think about sin. Sin's the same way. It starts off small, and then it can multiply if we don't deal with it. And sin's described several different ways in the Bible, but one way it's described is as missing the mark. It's like an archer that shoots an arrow and misses the bullseye. Same word is used in Romans 3:23. It says, for all have sinned, all have missed the mark, and come short of the glory of God. Well, we've all missed the mark. We've all messed up from time to time. But that doesn't excuse us from sinning. Romans 6 says, well then, should we keep on sinning so that God can show us more and more of His wonderful grace? Of course not. Or another translation says, by no means. Since we have died to sin, how can we continue to live in it? As disciples, we have to become aware of the drips in our life, the little sins in our life. Maybe it's a little lie that we tell. Maybe it's a little morsel of gossip. As you're preparing your taxes, maybe you'll be tempted to cheat just a little bit on it. We need to become aware of the little drips, because the little drips can multiply and they can grow bigger, and you can end up having a mess in your life. From time to time, I have people that come into my office and they say, well, I just don't know how I got here. I don't know how I had the affair. I don't know how I got my girlfriend pregnant. I don't know how I became addicted to these pills. And almost every time it started off with a little drip. Just a little sin that began to increase, that began to multiply. And so often we're great about concealing our sin, about hiding it. But with time, sin always comes to light. And Satan's great at lying to us about our sin. He says, well, it's just affecting you. It's not affecting anyone else. And so just go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter. But sin often, if not all the time, is communal. It affects others. And just think about the workaholic spouse. It just doesn't affect them. It affects the whole family. It affects the spouse. It affects the kids. Just think about the person who lacks integrity in their job. It doesn't just affect them. It affects their coworkers. It affects the company. Just think about how your sin affects others. Proverbs 28:13 says, people who conceal their sin will not prosper. But if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy. So I want to leave you with a couple of questions. Where are your drips? Identify them. What are the things that you struggle with in life? And then secondly, what are you doing to fix the drips? You can say, yeah, I struggle with selfishness or arrogance or pride or lust. But what are you doing to get help to overcome those? Are you confessing those to God? Have you found someone that can hold you accountable? I want to encourage you to fix the drips. It may save you from making a big mess in your life. I can't wait to see you next time.